I gave up everything for my wife, my career, my future, so she could chase her dreams. But in the end she didn't love me for it, she hated me. And that hatred led to the ultimate betrayal. Hey everyone, I've got a bit of a story to share. One of those unexpected turns life throws at you when you least expect it. My wife and I got married at 25, fresh out of college, ready to take on the world together. We had a great life, good jobs, financial stability, and no real worries. I landed a solid position at a major company, and she worked for her father's business. Things were smooth sailing for a while. Then when I turned 28, everything changed. I got a major promotion, which meant a significant bump in my salary. That same year we welcomed our first daughter, and 2 years later our second came along. Life was hectic, but it was good. We had built something amazing together. But about 5 years ago my father-in-law passed away, leaving my wife and her mother with some tough decisions about the family business. My wife stepped up and took charge, and honestly she was incredible at it. Over time her company grew, and before I knew it she was out earning me. As our daughters got older we started feeling the strain of our busy schedules. It became clear that one of us needed to step back, and after some long conversations, my wife pointed out that her company needed her more than mine needed me. She wasn't wrong. So I made the decision to become a stay-at-home dad. I took on everything, raising the kids, managing the house, keeping things running while she focused on her career. And for a while it worked. But about a year ago something shifted. My wife's attitude toward me changed in ways I never expected. She started making these little digs, comments like, "Do you even do anything all day?" Or, "How about you get a real job?" At first I brushed it off, thinking maybe it was just stress talking. But the remarks kept coming, and they stung, especially because I was constantly on my feet taking care of everything at home. On top of that, our intimacy took a hit. My wife has always had a high libido, but suddenly she stopped initiating anything. When I tried, she just wasn't interested. I chalked it up to stress, maybe the pressures of work, the pandemic, just life in general. So I put in extra effort, doing whatever I could to make her happy. But no matter what I did, nothing seemed to work. Then last weekend, everything came crashing down. Our oldest daughter had a softball game, and I wanted to record it for my parents who live far away and don't get to see the kids often. I forgot my phone at home, so I asked my wife if I could use hers. She had been glued to it all day, so I figured it would be a good opportunity for her to just sit back and enjoy the game. She handed it over and went off to grab a drink and a snack. And then it happened. A message popped up on her screen while I was recording. I wasn't trying to snoop, but my eyes just landed on it, and what I saw made my stomach drop. Explicit messages, pictures, videos, all from a guy at her work. A guy 8 years younger than me. I couldn't stop myself. I scrolled through the messages, and what I read broke me. Not only were they talking about their encounters, but they were mocking me, belittling me, laughing at the life I had built, the sacrifices I had made for our family. I sat there holding her phone, my mind racing, my heart pounding. Everything I thought I knew about my marriage, my wife, my life, it all shattered in an instant. I don't even know what to do now. How do you come back from something like this? Has anyone else been in a situation like this? Because right now I feel completely lost. I felt like the ground had been ripped out from under me. My chest was tight, my hands shaking as I tried to process what I had just seen on my wife's phone. The anger hit first, hot, sharp, overwhelming, but underneath it there was this deep, crushing sadness. I heard my wife coming back, so I quickly closed the app and focused on recording the game, pretending like nothing had happened. But my mind was a blur, every laugh, every cheer from the crowd drowned out by the weight of what I'd just discovered. The drive home was silent. I wasn't ready to talk, and honestly, I didn't even know what I would say. My wife noticed, of course. She tried making conversation, but I couldn't bring myself to respond. I just wasn't in the mood for small talk, not with her, not after what I knew. That night, we got into bed like usual, but the air between us was heavy, different. And then, for the first time in what felt like forever, she tried to initiate intimacy. The audacity of it stunned me. After all this time, after months of shutting me out, suddenly she wanted to be close? I couldn't do it. "I'm not in the mood," I told her, my voice flat, emotionless. She scoffed. "If you're going to complain about everything, you can sleep on the couch." That was it. No remorse, no concern, just dismissal. I didn't argue. I didn't even look at her. I just got up and went to the couch, where I've been sleeping ever since. And now I feel like my whole world is unraveling. My wife meant everything to me. My daughters are my heart and soul. But now it feels like the life I built is crumbling around me, and I don't know how to pick up the pieces. I need advice. I need to know, how do you move forward from something like this? The plan moving forward. First off, I want to make one thing clear. I have all the evidence. Every message, every picture, every video, I have it all. Secondly, I don't own any part of my wife's company. It's a 50-50 partnership between her and my mother-in-law, so financially she holds all the power there. And lastly, I can't sleep in our bed anymore. The thought of lying next to her, pretending like things are normal, makes my skin crawl. I've moved into the guest room and that's where I'll be staying. But I've made my decision. This morning, I contacted a law firm in a different town to keep things discreet. By some stroke of luck, they had a last-minute cancellation and were able to see me right away. After dropping my daughters off, I drove straight there. The lawyer I met with is sharp, experienced, confident. I laid everything out for him, showed him all the evidence I had, and he didn't hesitate. He told me that with what I've gathered, my wife is in a weak position. She's been absent from our home. She's been prioritizing another man over me and, more importantly, over our daughters. And I left my job to take care of them full-time. That puts me in a very strong position legally. He laid out the plan. We can secure child support, alimony, and I will keep the house. She'll have to contribute financially as long as our daughters live there. On top of that, since I've been out of the workforce for years, I'm now considered less employable. That strengthens my case for additional financial support, which could help me cover further education or career training. Then came the big part, the custody arrangement. Given her behavior, we are going to push for full custody. She'll be granted visitation but only on weekends, once, maybe twice a month. And I will make it crystal clear, no other men around my daughters. If she tries to bring this guy or anyone else into their lives, there will be legal consequences. I don't want to do this out of spite. I want to do this to protect my kids. Because at the end of the day, they're what matters most. This isn't the life I thought I'd be living. I never imagined I'd be here, planning a divorce, strategizing custody, picking up the broken pieces of a marriage I once thought was unshakable. But here I am. I'd appreciate any advice from those who've been through something similar. How do you keep yourself together when everything you knew about your life turns out to be a lie? I don't want this man anywhere near my daughters, plain and simple. My lawyer advised me to stay quiet and keep everything normal until the legal paperwork is finalized. Once everything is in place, he'll arrange for her to be served with the divorce papers. He also recommended that I maintain a peaceful household in the meantime. No arguments, no confrontations, no unnecessary drama. He told me to sleep in a separate bed, avoid initiating any kind of intimacy, and just go through the motions as if nothing had changed. When I asked him why, he simply said, "Trust me. Don't do it. Follow my advice." So I did. I just got back home after the meeting with my lawyer and went straight into preparing dinner, acting like everything was normal. The test. Before anything else, I had to know where I stood. I got myself tested for STDs and I also arranged for a paternity test. It's devastating to even consider the possibility that my daughters might not be mine, but given everything that's happened, I needed the truth, no matter how painful it might be. The big shift, full custody and her removal. As for my soon-to-be ex-wife, she's no longer living in our home. I now have full temporary custody of our daughters. My lawyer handled everything legally, making sure the process was airtight. It wasn't easy and it definitely wasn't pleasant, but I'll share more details about that another time. She was served with the divorce papers at her workplace, and from what I've heard, it didn't go over well. Again, I'll save that story for later. For now, all that matters is that my daughters are with me in our home, safe. The hardest part, guilt and doubts. One of my biggest fears is how all of this will affect my girls. Will they resent me for this? Will they grow up feeling like I took their mother away from them? I won't lie, there were moments when I seriously considered just turning a blind eye to my wife's affair, pretending it never happened, just to keep my daughters in a two-parent home. I even wondered if I could tolerate an open relationship at least until they were older so we could maintain the illusion of a family unit. But deep down, I know that's not an option. That kind of relationship isn't something I could live with, and more importantly, my daughters would pick up on the tension. They'd see through the facade and it wouldn't make them any happier in the long run. That's why I have to stand firm. Her role moving forward. Despite everything, I'm not going to cut my daughters off from their mother. She's still their mom and I'll never stand in the way of that bond. We've established a strict, trackable method of communication that is only about the kids. Nothing more, nothing less. Under my lawyer's guidance, we're keeping things professional, ensuring everything is documented. She has tried reaching out to me with personal calls and texts, but I'm sticking to the plan. As for Thanksgiving, I actually ended up spending it with my wife and mother-in-law. From now on, though, I'll simply refer to her as my ex-wife, because that's what she is now. This entire situation has forced me to reevaluate everything I thought I knew about love, loyalty, and family. It's been brutal, but I'm staying focused on what truly matters: my daughters and their well-being. I'm still figuring out how to move forward, but for now this is where things stand. If anyone has been through something similar, I'd appreciate any advice. How do you navigate co-parenting after this kind of betrayal? How do you ensure your kids come out of this okay? I never thought my wife had dated anyone before college, but apparently I was wrong. According to my mother-in-law, my wife had a high school boyfriend who came from a troubled family. Her parents had advised her to stay away from him, but like most teenagers, she didn't listen. Eventually, she caught him cheating, walking in on him with another girl, and, well, I don't have to spell out what was happening. It was exactly what you'd expect. In college, she had a few relationships, but she always knew they weren't meant to last. None of them were serious. The Thanksgiving gathering. Fast forward to now, Thanksgiving. My daughters wanted to see their mom, and my ex had expressed a desire to spend time with them too. My mother-in-law had invited them over for a small gathering, making it clear that the event was just for the girls. Following my lawyer's advice, I communicated everything through our trackable app. Since my daughters were eager to see their mom, I agreed, for their sake. I'll be honest, the whole thing was incredibly awkward. When we arrived, my ex-wife immediately hugged our daughters, which was fine. But then she turned to me trying to hug and kiss me like we were still together. I stepped back and instead greeted my mother-in-law with a hug. My ex kept acting like nothing had changed, as if this was just another family holiday like all the ones before. Then she started talking about wanting to spend more time together as a family. That's when I knew coming over for dinner had been a mistake. After we finished eating, I got up, took care of my daughters, did the dishes, and got ready to leave. But my girls wanted to watch a movie with their mom, one we used to watch as a family. I wasn't going to take that away from them. So I agreed and sat down on the couch with them. But my ex took that as an opportunity. She moved closer, trying to cuddle up to me. The moment I felt her touch, I stood up immediately and took a seat in a nearby chair. That's when she broke down. The breakdown. Through tears, she started pleading. Please take me back. We can work through this. I want to be a family again. I need to be with my family. I'm so sorry for what happened before. Before I could even respond, my mother-in-law grabbed my ex by the hair. I'm not joking. She yanked her back and immediately started yelling at her. Then she turned to me, said, "Good night," and kept going at her daughter. So yeah, that happened. Aftermath. Once I left, I called my lawyer to make sure I hadn't done anything wrong. He assured me that nothing in my actions suggested reconciliation, so I was in the clear. Now, looking back at the whole Thanksgiving ordeal, I know one thing: I don't want to do that again. But I also know that my ex and my mother-in-law might try to persuade my daughters to ask for another gathering. I'll bring it up with my lawyer, but I already know what I want. The hardest part: my daughters finding out. This week, my daughters had another therapy session, and it was a tough one. The therapist explained the affair and our separation in a way they could understand. Hearing that hit me hard. This whole time, I've been doing my best to protect them, to keep them from feeling the full weight of this disaster. But at some point, the truth had to come out. Now, I just have to figure out how to help them through it. I knew my girls would find out eventually, but I never thought it would be this soon. After their therapy session, they were devastated. They clung to me, sobbing, telling me how much they loved me. And I love them more than anything, but seeing them in that kind of pain, it tore me apart. Later that night, I locked myself in the bathroom and broke down. Their hurt runs so deep, and what makes it worse is that their mom doesn't seem to fully understand it. She's not the one dealing with the aftermath, with the questions, with the heartbreak. I'm the one holding them while they cry. I'm the one trying to make sense of it all. The therapist suggested medication to help them adjust, but I'm not comfortable with that. I don't want to numb their emotions. I want them to process what they're feeling in a healthy way. Christmas changed everything. As Christmas approached, it became clear that my daughters were turning against their mom. My oldest flat out said she never wanted to see her again. My youngest usually follows her lead, and this time was no different. I was stunned. I never wanted to turn them against their mother, and I certainly never spoke badly about her in front of them. So when my oldest said it, I tried to reassure her. "Your mom loves you," I told her gently. She just shook her head and cried. "No, she doesn't." That broke me. The affair partner's secret. With everything going on, I still found myself looking for answers. So, I went through some of my wife's work documents and came across a list of employee contacts. That's when I saw his name. Next to it, his emergency contact. Curious, I dialed the number. A woman answered. His wife. I had no idea he was even married. On top of that, he has a toddler. At first, she didn't believe me. She accused me of lying, then hung up. But later, she called back and asked to meet. So, we met up and I showed her the proof, the texts, the pictures, everything. That's when she broke down. "Why is this happening?" she asked through tears. And then she did something that completely floored me. She reached up, pulled off her wig, and revealed that she had just overcome cancer. She explained that after giving birth to their child, they found a tumor. Over the past year and a half, she had gone through 2 surgeries, chemotherapy, and medication, fighting for her life, all while he was out cheating on her. Despite everything, she looked remarkably healthy, which surprised me. But beneath that strength, you could see the pain. She wasn't just heartbroken, she was betrayed at a time when she needed him most. She confided that their marriage hadn't been the same since her diagnosis. She suspected something was wrong, but she never imagined this. As she talked, I just sat there listening. I understood that feeling of losing the life you thought you had. She started crying about her child growing up in a broken home, and I did my best to comfort her. Then, something unexpected happened. She made a move on me. I pulled away immediately. "You're not in the right state of mind," I told her gently. "This wouldn't be healthy." She nodded, wiping away tears, and apologized. She thanked me for my honesty, then asked for copies of the evidence. I gave them to her and she left. Since then, we've exchanged a few texts. Not in a romantic way, just 2 people trying to navigate the mess our spouses left us in. Christmas morning. Despite everything, I wanted to make Christmas as special as possible for my daughters. My oldest still believes in Santa, so I set out their presents early in the morning while it was still dark outside. 15 minutes later, they came running out of their rooms, eyes wide with excitement. "Santa came," they squealed. Seeing their joy, even for just a moment, made everything worth it. I dragged myself out of bed, watched them tear through their gifts, and felt the house come alive again. Afterward, we curled up together on the couch to watch a movie. Within minutes, they both fell asleep against me. For the first time in a while, things felt peaceful. I eventually got up, made myself some coffee, and just sat there watching them sleep. Then my youngest woke up, rubbing her eyes. "I'm hungry," she mumbled. And just like that, it was back to reality. Encouraging my daughter's relationship with their mom. Despite everything that's happened, I've made it a point to remind my daughters that their mom still loves them. Their therapist has been clear about one thing: for their healthy development, they need the opportunity to rebuild their relationship with her over time if they choose to. She also warned me that if I don't encourage that relationship, my wife could use it against me in court, claiming I was isolating them from her. It's a difficult position to be in, but I understand the logic. This has to be their choice. My wife is aware of the therapist and has had discussions with her. From what I understand, the therapist was very direct. She told my wife that she betrayed me in every possible way. There was no sugarcoating it. Christmas night, staying over at their mom's. Since it was Christmas, my wife asked if the girls could stay the night with her. I wasn't thrilled about it, but I wanted to be fair. I checked with my lawyer, and he said it was fine as a one-time thing but advised me not to make it a frequent or prolonged occurrence. I made sure my daughters knew that if they wanted to come home at any time, all they had to do was call me. As I was driving away, I saw my wife step outside, heading toward my mother-in-law, who waved me off. I couldn't hear their conversation, but I saw my wife say something to her. I didn't stick around to find out what it was. A new connection with Amelia. That night, I had plans of my own. I met up with Amelia, the wife of the man my ex had an affair with. She had been through her own devastating betrayal, and in a strange way, we had become a source of comfort for each other. Amelia looked beautiful that evening, wearing a nice dress, leggings, fluffy boots, and a wig that suited her well. We had dinner together, sharing stories about our past, getting to know each other beyond just the mess that had brought us together. After dinner, we settled on the couch, continuing to talk about our struggles, our challenges, our pain. Sometimes our words led to tears. Other times we found moments of laughter and relief. We opened a bottle of wine, and as the conversation lightened, we shared some jokes. At one point, I noticed she kept adjusting her wig, so I told her, "You can take that off if you'd like." She gave me a small, grateful smile and removed it. "Thank you," she said softly. An unexpected intimacy. As the night went on, we ended up cuddling while watching a movie. We were both intoxicated, just 2 broken people finding a moment of peace. At some point, I unconsciously started doing something familiar. A small, soothing massage on her chest. It was something my wife had always liked, and my body had just gone into autopilot. Amelia noticed and gently mentioned it. That's when I realized what I was doing and immediately pulled my hands away. But she didn't push me away. She just leaned into me, resting her head on my chest. Eventually we ended up in bed, not in a physical way but simply lying together, holding each other. She shed some tears and we fell asleep like that. The next morning we had breakfast together and got ready for the day. What comes next? I don't know where things with Amelia will go, if anywhere at all. But for now, I know this: she understands my pain in a way no one else does. For the first time in a long time, I didn't feel alone. The morning after and the reality check. As Amelia was getting ready to leave, I noticed that she had brought fresh clothes with her. Curious, I asked, "Did you plan for this?" She chuckled. "No, but a girl always has an extra pair of clothes, just in case." Before she left, she hesitated for a moment and then asked, "Did you feel anything last night?" I was honest. Yeah, I did. But we both knew we needed to be mindful of our kids and make sure we weren't just getting lost in emotions. Whatever had happened between us, it wasn't planned. And while it felt right in the moment, we agreed that we needed to take things slow and figure out what we really wanted. My wife's attempts to reconnect. After Christmas, my wife kept trying to contact me. For a few weeks, she sent messages, called me, and tried to convince me to talk things through. But I wasn't interested. Eventually, she hired a lawyer, and now our legal meetings are about to begin. My lawyer is aware of everything and we're fully prepared for what's coming. At this point, she's finally realizing that I'm resolute in my decision. No matter how many times she calls or texts trying to change my mind, I've made it clear: reconciliation is not an option. I'm done. The affair partner's fate. As for her affair partner, he's been arrested. I don't know all the details and honestly I don't really care. My ex-mother-in-law knows what happened but hasn't judged me for not reaching out to check on my wife. She even said something that stuck with me. Karma is a bee, and this is hers. Since the incident, neither I nor my daughters have seen my ex-wife. And unless something extraordinary happens, you probably won't hear from me again until after our initial legal meetings. Amelia and I, where we stand now. Sorry for the lack of updates, things have been hectic since my first meeting with my lawyer. But back to Amelia and me. We still talk every day and things between us have been going really well. There's something about having someone who truly understands your pain. Someone who isn't just offering sympathy but knows exactly what it feels like to be betrayed by the person you trusted most. The aftermath of the affair. The situation with my ex-wife's affair partner took a dramatic turn. After his arrest, he claimed that she used her position at work to initiate the affair. My ex-wife actually tried to press charges against him, but later dropped them. In response, he decided not to sue her and then he left town. No one knows where he went and frankly, I don't care. His parents claimed they had no idea what was going on, but whether that's true or not, it doesn't matter to me anymore. Looking ahead. My lawyer has presented my demands, and after the aggressive incident with her affair partner, my case has only gotten stronger. I don't know exactly how this will all end yet, but one thing is for sure, I'm not looking back. Finalizing custody and facing my ex one last time. I insisted on full custody of my daughters. My lawyer outlined everything I wanted, but her lawyer didn't seem to be fully listening. At first, her side wanted more time with the girls, every weekend, but my lawyer fought back. In the end, we agreed that she would get 2 weekends a month and alternating holidays. Honestly, I was fine with that. She is still their mother and despite everything, I hope she's learned to put them first. At this point, it feels strange to even call her my wife anymore. But I think you all understand, I mean my soon-to-be ex-wife. How she looked and my mother-in-law's intervention. I know some of you might be wondering, how did she look? Honestly? Terrible. She looked frail, almost anorexic, like the stress of everything had completely consumed her. Despite my anger and everything she put us through, I couldn't help but feel a tiny bit of pity. She's still the mother of my daughters and for their sake she needs to get herself together. My mother-in-law eventually agreed to help her, working with her to get her back on her feet. The note and our final meeting. A few days later she left me a note. She was asking for one final conversation before the divorce. She wanted to meet in a public place. I agreed, under one condition. The conversation would be recorded. We're still legally married for now, but the end is coming soon. By the first week of July, this chapter of my life will finally be closed. Meeting at the park, the last conversation. We met at the park, the same one where we used to take our daughters when they were little. I had everything recorded just in case she tried anything manipulative. But to my surprise, she didn't. Most of our conversation was about the girls, and for the first time she was honest. She admitted that she isn't in the right mindset to be a mother right now and that full custody should stay with me. She acknowledged that she had failed as a parent, that her choices had hurt our daughters deeply. That's when I finally asked her, "After everything you've done, do you really believe you deserve a second chance?" She shook her head, tears in her eyes. "No, I don't." At that moment, something inside me snapped. I felt a wave of emotion hit me like a freight train, and I let it all out. I told her how much I had loved her, how I had given up my career for her and our daughters, how I had done everything for her, only to be repaid with betrayal and lies. She started crying harder, but I wasn't done. I told her that her apologies meant nothing now, that sorry doesn't erase the damage she caused, that everything she did to our daughters weighs on me every single day. She kept repeating the same empty words over and over. "I'm sorry. I'm so sorry." But I just shook my head. Sorry doesn't mean anything anymore. Then I asked her the one question that had haunted me for months. What the hell was going through your mind when you started all of this? And for once, she had no answer. The truth comes out, and it's infuriating. I remembered seeing a YouTube video discussing my situation, and I had glanced through the comments section. A lot of people had theories about why my wife did what she did, and strangely enough, many of them lined up exactly with what she was about to confess. Then, out of nowhere, she admitted it. I wanted to be the one at home. Her words completely threw me. I sat there, stunned, trying to process what she had just said. But she wasn't done. She continued, clarifying her mindset. She said she never intended for things to fall apart the way they did. Why she made me quit my job. I pressed her further. Then why did you push me to quit my job? Why did you insist on running the business? She sighed, looking completely drained. I wanted you to express your willingness to do it. That answer infuriated me. I had no experience in that field. I would have been terrible at running your dad's business. Why would you want me to say something I couldn't follow through on? She hesitated before admitting the truth. Because I didn't want to acknowledge that I wanted to be a stay-at-home wife. At that moment, my anger hit its breaking point. How it led to the affair. She finally laid it all out. She started resenting me because she wanted my role. Instead of telling me that, she convinced herself that I wasn't a real man. And that resentment is what led her to the affair. At one point, she actually tried to end it. But her affair partner manipulated her, feeding her more toxic lies about me, making her angrier, more bitter. So she fell back into it. And from there it became a pattern. Could this have been avoided? She finally admitted. If I had just communicated with you from the start, none of this would have happened. She then broke down, saying she wished she could have her family back and return to some sense of normalcy. But there's no going back. I was devastated. I was furious. After all this time, after everything she destroyed, the truth was as simple as her own unspoken desire. And that's the final piece of the story. There you have it.